guys, welcome back. Another day, another video, lots to talk about. Let's start off with the biggest thing that happened yesterday. I mean, you guys already know what it is, and it is Redfall. Everybody was talking about it. Lots of disappointment on social media, and that is Redfall officially announcing that on the Xbox consoles, on the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, it will only be releasing, at least at the beginning, with a quality mode at 30 frames per second. So here is what they say. They say Redfall is launching on Xbox consoles with quality mode only. Xbox Series X at 4K 30 FPS and the Xbox Series S at 1440p 30 FPS. Now, a 60 FPS performance mode will be added via game update at a later date. And I mean, this blew up. Everyone who saw this, who was anticipating Redfall, was extremely disappointed, and I think for good reason. Now, generally when things happen, Xbox does something, you see a lot of fake outrage out there. You see a lot of people losing their mind over the smallest things that really isn't that big of a deal, and generally people aren't really going to care that much. They're just kind of trying to make fake outrage about it. But when it comes to this, when I first saw this, it was something that I kind of had a sinking feeling about the game itself and releasing it at only a 30 frames per second mode. It's a first-person shooter. It's fast-paced. From the gameplay we've seen, they've been showing it off in 60 FPS. So essentially, it's kind of been a little bit of false marketing there from that standpoint. We saw videos like from Colt Eastwood and then other content creators who actually got invited down to the Arcane Studios to actually play the game, and they were able to play this game in 60 FPS, and the gameplay that they showed looked really good, and it was in 60 FPS. So everyone figured that when this game released, even on the Xbox consoles, they were going to be released with a 60 FPS performance mode. And it's a first-person shooter. Like I said, you need 60 FPS at launch. It is unacceptable now in 2023, especially on the Xbox Series X, to release a game at 30 frames per second. So there was a lot of outrage about this, and I think for good reason. There's something going on when it comes to Xbox. I've talked about this in previous videos, and I don't think it's the individual studios themselves that are having problems per se. I think Xbox as a whole, at the very top, Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, they do great stuff, but they are having definite issues, I think, with actually managing these studios and making good decisions for these games. To me, this is something that is saying delay the game. It wasn't ready, but they're still going ahead and pushing it out, which makes absolutely zero sense. They're pushing it out sandwiched between two of the biggest releases in 2023. So automatically it's going to be at a disadvantage. It's not going to be for the forefront for a lot of people, because you're just after Star Wars Jedi Survivor and just before probably the biggest game with Starfield to release this year, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And you're right in between there. And now from the IGN video last week to this announcement this week, there's just so much bad PR. And I can't help but blame the people at the top of Microsoft who are making these decisions, more so than actually blaming the developers, who are probably sitting there saying, hey, we're not ready for 60 frames per second. We want to push this game out another couple of months until that game mode, that performance mode, is solidified and optimized, so we don't have to make this announcement that we know is going to get a lot of backlash. Especially, again, I have to emphasize, a first-person shooter that has some fast-paced combat. You need that 60 frames per second. It seems like Matt Booty, even Phil Spencer, have been dropping the ball in ways when it comes to managing these studios and making sure that they are releasing with the hype that they originally started with. Because Redfall, let's be honest, when those first trailers came out from the people that went and played the game at the studio, everyone was excited for it because they looked really good. And then IGN, for some reason, had the worst gameplay trailer we've ever seen. Not actually, but a very bad one. And then that killed a little bit of hype. And now this announcement. So I don't know how it went from the first trailers that we saw from the content creators playing the game to where we are now, but it's very unfortunate. I don't think this game is dead on arrival or anything like that. I've seen people say that. I think that's somewhat of an over exaggeration, because the reality of the situation is we have to sit back and realize that Twitter is Twitter. And a lot of people may not even be paying attention to this. A lot of people who aren't following the gaming industry as closely as people on Twitter who are debating and arguing over this are following it, they're probably just going to log on to Xbox Game Pass when this game is released, download it and play it. And if it's a fun game, they're still going to have fun and still share it around with their friends. Twitter doesn't fully represent what is going to happen with the game, but I think it's definitely going to have a big hit. And it's unfortunate because you see a lot of people already out there saying they're just not even playing it. They're going to wait until it comes out with the 60 FPS patch or just go play it on PC. And the other thing you got to think about is it's seemingly the Xbox Series X should be treated as a first class, highest class citizen, if that makes any sense in terms of gaming. It shouldn't be treated as a second class citizen. Like it kind of feels like it is now falling behind the PC because of the way that it was marketed as the highest, most powerful console out there, and all the technology that was touted that they still haven't really utilized yet with the RDNA 2 stuff. That's where it gets frustrating if you're an Xbox Series X owner. So this announcement here, I think, is pretty unacceptable. I'm actually on the side of the outrage this time, where I'm usually seeing that there's just so much fake outrage just to get clicks and views. I'm on the side of it because this is very disappointing. And even for me, I do not believe I'm going to be jumping in to Redfall on Xbox at 30 frames per second. I will probably check it out on PC, but at the same time, I'm going to be playing Zelda a couple of days after that, and I'm going to be playing Star Wars as well, most likely. So I'm just going to end up waiting. I wouldn't have waited if this announcement didn't come out. I would have jumped in onto Xbox on the Series X and even the Series S, checking it out there day one. It's just unfortunate. There has to be something at Xbox that needs to be changed. And personally, like I said, it's got to be from like the Matt Booty level of guys. At what point is there going to be accountability at the top, where there have been multiple botched releases from Xbox since the Series XS? And then you think about Halo. At what point will there be accountability where there is better management and less fake marketing? Like, for example, this from Aaron Greenberg back in May. Now, I don't really blame Aaron Greenberg that much. I know I probably should, because he is, again, one of those guys at the top, but he's just a marketing guy. He's just kind of, in my opinion, I could be wrong, call me out if I'm wrong on this, but he's just spewing out whatever he's told to spew out. He's a marketing guy. He says 60 FPS will be the standard output, but the architecture allows us to support up to 120 FPS. So if 60 FPS is the standard output, this is absolutely unacceptable. And Xbox, the guys at the top, need to realize that this was being said in 2020. So this is unacceptable. Delay the game so this doesn't happen. So I'll leave that there on the Redfall thing. Again, it's disappointing. I'm actually on the side of the outrage for this one, and we'll see what happens. I guess the other question is Starfield. Is Starfield going to have the same 30 FPS thing? If we're basing it off of what Aaron Greenberg, the head of marketing, says, it shouldn't be with Starfield either. 60 FPS should be the standard output for all games released on Xbox throughout this generation. But we'll leave that there. That was the biggest thing that happened, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of people talking about it. And we'll move on here to something else. Ubisoft Plus. We know Ubisoft Plus is coming over to Xbox at some point, and the release of it is imminent. I'm guessing it's going to be releasing in the next month or so. Maybe they'll announce it and say it's here on the Xbox showcase, but I wouldn't be surprised if it came out earlier than that. And we know now that it's very close, as this is a tweet here saying, FYI, a Ubisoft Plus punch card has shown up in the Xbox Rewards app today. It says get unlimited access to fan favorite franchises and more. Looks like Ubisoft Plus is imminent. So there it is. I think honestly, the subscription of Ubisoft Plus, although I am not subscribed currently, I've looked through it and it is a pretty good subscription. You get a lot of content for the price that you're paying, especially if you enjoy Ubisoft games. I mean, that's obviously the key. You have to enjoy the Ubisoft open world style of games, which I've said multiple times. I do enjoy those games. So for me, honestly, Ubisoft Plus would be a good subscription to be a part of, because you get like the highest edition of the games, you get all the DLC, and I enjoy pretty much all of their games. So it is a good subscription, and it's cool now that it is coming over to console. And since the punch card is here, I'm sure it's coming very, very soon. Next I want to talk about is this. This one's pretty interesting, because as we know, with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, Xbox is promising that all of the Call of Duties and even Activision catalogs will be available on other services, on other subscription services and other cloud gaming services, including PlayStation Plus. And I would say here that this is going to be a point that Xbox kind of gets to use as proof that they will be doing this, as Xbox is bringing 9 of their games, their Bethesda games, but their Xbox Game Studios games to PlayStation Plus this month. It's crazy that they're just dropping 9 games that, as an Xbox gamer, you would think that would be one of the advantages of Game Pass, that you're getting all of these Bethesda games into the Xbox Game Pass service, and if you're on another platform, you can still play them because they are legacy titles, but you would have to go out and purchase the games. Seems like that's not the case here, as these are the lists coming. These are the list of games coming to PlayStation Plus in April of 2023. Xbox first-party games: Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, The Evil Within, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 3, and Dishonored Definitive Edition. So lots of Xbox there giving their games out to PlayStation, where it's at this point you would think they maybe wouldn't want to do that with the rivalry that is going on with the Activision Blizzard, with how PlayStation has been trying to block that deal. And if you're on PlayStation, you're looking at this list and you like Bethesda, this is an incredible list of games to go out and play in April. Yeah, they're older games, but still like awesome, amazing Bethesda games that are available on the PlayStation Plus subscription service. So I think this is kind of also showing the strategy and the mindset of Xbox, is that they just want to get their games out to as many people as possible, especially when they are the older legacy games. Like you think about newer games like Redfall and Starfield that are coming out. Those games I don't think will ever see the light of day on a subscription service unless it's like maybe 10 years down the road. Maybe they'll eventually say, okay, we'll bring these games out to PlayStation. But I honestly don't think that would ever actually happen, because they aren't the legacy titles that had an established base previously. But these games all could have been played on PlayStation before. But it doesn't mean that they actually have to put them on the subscription service. They still can just keep them within the PlayStation Store. But hey, they are doing that. So they must have struck a deal with PlayStation to get these games into PlayStation Plus. So although they are clashing, although they are fighting with the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, they clearly are still on business terms to make money for both of those companies, because again, releasing 9 games into PlayStation Plus in April. And another thing, when we're sticking on PlayStation Plus, people love to talk about shitty stuff Xbox does, but here is something that if you're on PlayStation Plus, I would be very annoyed of this happening. And it is that Spider-Man will be leaving PlayStation Plus Extra in May, which is a first-party PlayStation title, which again is another massive advantage of Xbox Game Pass, where those titles don't leave. I know people are in the comments, as I said that, I'm thinking they're all going to say Quantum Break, but we know exactly what's going on with Quantum Break. It's coming back to Game Pass very soon. It's a licensing deal that they are working out. With Spider-Man, maybe that is a similar thing. You never know, but I would be surprised if it is that. I feel like this is just Sony gearing up, knowing that people are going to want to go out and buy Spider-Man with the hype for Spider-Man 2 and just how big Spider-Man is. So they're taking it off of PlayStation Plus Extra, and maybe they'll add it to a different tier or whatever. But this is what it says. As a part of our normal content refresh, Marvel's Spider-Man, Resident Evil, and NBA 2K Playgrounds 2 will be among some of the titles leaving the PlayStation Plus game catalog in May. And again, that's one of the things that Xbox does better than PlayStation in terms of subscription, is keeping their first-party games on the service for as long as you are subscribed to the service. So we'll see. Maybe are they going to do this with other first-party games? Or are they going to bring more first-party games to PlayStation Plus? I don't know. I think at some point, I've said this multiple times, PlayStation, if they want to compete on subscription, if they want to compete on cloud, they're going to have to bring their first-party games into PlayStation Plus on day one. And we know that they are going that way. I know that people love to look at console sales all the time and say, wow, PlayStation 5 is selling extremely well, which they are. And that thinking that is going to be their strategy till the end of time, but that's not going to be their strategy till the end of time. Right now, they're biding their time as they continue to transition to essentially copying the Xbox model, which is the ecosystem, and making sure their games are available across every single device, as many people as possible. And we have even more proof for that, as there is this article that was dropped here by The Verge that says Sony is gearing up for a new cloud gaming push amid rumors of a PlayStation handheld. So last week we talked about the Q-Lite, which was going to be just a handheld with a 8-inch screen, and then I guess half of the DualSense on each side of that 8-inch screen with the haptics and the adaptive trigger. So essentially it's just a DualSense with the screen in the middle. But it was only going to be used for remote play, and it wasn't even going to be used for actual cloud gaming. And it seems like that's just a part of their strategy. They're going to continue to expand on that with this here, where specifically it says Sony is currently hiring 22 roles related to cloud gaming tech, including one person whose job will literally be to develop and deliver the strategic vision for cloud game streaming at PlayStation. And it says, are you a groundbreaking innovator in the cloud streaming product space? Then you likely agree that cloud gaming is on its way to becoming a major part of the gaming industry, which it is. I mean, it's in its infancy still, but it's going to be the future. And I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I like downloading my games natively, but I'm just being realistic here. It is going to be the future. We're going to have to adjust at some point where cloud is going to be essentially the main way people access and play games. And it continues on here and says that Sony is also hiring 5 senior platform engineers, 3 software engineers, 2 technical project managers, and at least 1 technical writer, 4 reliability engineers, and an additional DevOps engineer, a junior network engineer, a senior business intelligence analyst, a security architect, and a network capacity planner, many of which will report to the company's future technology group, which is going to be like the whole cloud gaming side of things. As it says here, that as a member of Sony Interactive Entertainment's future technology group, FTG, you'll have the opportunity to lead the change in the cloud gaming revolution. FTG is at the forefront of putting console quality video games on any device. And I mean, console quality video games on any device sounds very, very similar to the motto of Xbox, as what they've been wanting to do with their ecosystem from the very beginning with Game Pass and with cloud gaming, getting the high AAA games anywhere you want to play them. Sony is literally following exactly in those footsteps, and they are going to be doing the exact same thing Xbox does that people have on the Sony side of things have probably talked a lot of shit about. And they're eventually going to start enjoying that because Sony is going to be starting to do the same thing. I mean, they're already there somewhat with like the PlayStation Plus model, where again, they expanded that out and they evolved that because of Xbox Game Pass. And you think about a PlayStation PC and mobile, they're trying to get their games in as many places as possible. So another thing that they do talk about here is that the senior business intelligence analysts will be working on analysis for the cloud gaming experience and will focus on the future technology and cloud gaming business area. And they also say that they potentially aren't going to be working with Azure, which is one of the things that everyone thought that Microsoft had Sony in the bag for this, because they had made a deal with Microsoft for their Azure services. But it seems like they're not even focusing on that. It says the job postings also suggest Sony is working on a new hybrid cloud infrastructure with Kubernetes and Amazon AWS and not necessarily Microsoft Azure, which we know they did publicly announce that it would use Microsoft's tech in 2019. So who knows what's going on with that, because Jim Ryan has also told Nikkei that the 2 companies had yet to get past the exchanging of idea stage. Maybe there is a bigger rift than we think with this whole Xbox, Activision, Blizzard stuff, that they're trying to differentiate themselves and they don't want to continue to give more money to Microsoft to help them grow Xbox. Because that's one of the biggest things, I think, if you're Jim Ryan, you're Sony, and you're sitting there and you're looking at Xbox, Activision, Blizzard, it's not just Call of Duty. It's the fact that you're going to be paying Microsoft large sums of money every single year to take and reinvest into Game Pass and to reinvest into Xbox and to grow. And they are your direct competitor. And I guess if they were to use Azure, it would just be more of that. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, this is just more proof that PlayStation is evolving. They're trying to evolve. I think they were a little slow to evolve. And I think in the next decade or so, they are going to fall behind Xbox in terms of the ecosystem side of things. But this is proof that they are essentially, the writing's on the wall. They have to change their strategy, even though the PS5 is still selling extremely, extremely well. I'm going to leave that there, guys. Let me know your thoughts on everything. What are your thoughts on Redfall? I know that's the biggest thing here. I would love. Are you guys going to play the game at launch at 30 FPS? Are you waiting for 60 FPS? Are you done with Redfall? Are you not even going to look into it anymore because it's at 30 FPS launch, even though a patch is coming later? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.